Another night, another call out. A day after Craig Berube said he'd like to see the criticism kept inside the room, he ripped the Matthews line publicly after their most recent loss. Craig, this feels like it's happening every game now. Do the Leafs just need to adjust their expectations?
I think that's a great question, Gino. And so what are those expectations? We talked about the Toronto Maple Leafs in the offseason, the moves they made. They're getting bigger and they're getting heavier. They're getting playoff ready. Well, it feels to me like the burden of expectations is weighing heavily on their shoulders. And I think that the expectations have to be defined. This is not nearly as good a team as it was last season or in previous seasons for the regular season. You look at losing Mitch Marner. Mitch Marner is an elite top player in the National Hockey League. How are you going to be better offensively, defensively, all around when you lose a superstar? You can't be. It's impossible. So now you have the Toronto Maple Leafs trying to find different fits, trying to find what will fit into any different scenario, who can play with Matthews, who can add more scoring. But the reality of the situation is, Gino, the Toronto Maple Leafs are not as good a team as they were in previous seasons. And if it wasn't for the injured Florida Panthers, the underperforming Tampa Bay Lightning, do you know what question we'd be asking? Is this team capable of making the playoffs? They have the good fortune of the Florida teams, struggling a little bit for different reasons. But the Toronto Maple Leafs defensively, one of the worst teams in the National Hockey League. They have 4 offensive players: Matthews, Nyes, Tavares, and Nylander. And now Matthews gets called out, Nylander gets called out. I mean, they're going to run out of players to call out. And so expectations to me have to be tempered. You have to deal in reality. We know there's changes without Mitch Marner. We know you're just going to be some time when you got to find your way. But this Toronto Maple Leafs team, the reality is they're not very good. So how does Craig Berube find a way to get them to maximize their current potential? And what does Brad Treliving do to try to bolster the lineup? Because this is a lineup that is average. It's an average team right now in the National Hockey League. We'll see what they can do going forward.
Okay, Craig, you're shifting the way you want them to play. You're shifting the bodies around in this room. You're saying there should be diminished expectations. If that's the case, I'm guessing you have a big problem with how publicly this is all being played out in the media.
Well, you can point fingers, and, we saw Craig Berube get frustrated and he points fingers. We talk about Anthony Stolarz speaking out. He points fingers, and we all want to handle it internally. It's good. There's nothing wrong with it. I could have handled it differently. But I think what we're seeing is real evidence of a team that's trying to find its way. And quite frankly, yeah, I think that there's times when you can say, hey, enough is enough and it's not good enough. But, William Nylander a couple weeks ago, okay, yeah, he's not doing this. Where would they be without William Nylander right now, Gino? Where would they be? I'll tell you where they'd be. They'd be at the bottom of the standings. They might be winless if they didn't have William Nylander. So you can start pointing fingers. You better figure out how to make your team better, how to get your team to play better, and then move from there. Again, good teams understand what their capabilities are, and if you understand that and you maximize that out, well, then you can start to look for solutions. To me, it looks like everybody's just looking to place blame on one another. That is not a recipe for success.
To your point, they've struggled offensively and they've struggled defensively as well. Just how badly? They're currently ranked 27th in goals against per game. They were 8th last year.